If you can
I can
confirm
check
that,
it out.
that would be.
Yeah.
Thank you. Okay, we are live. So, hi everyone. If you are watching online or if you are part of this meeting, thanks a lot for our first study session on network state. And I am very excited to start this study group series where we will go deeper into what is network state, what are like startup cities, what are the implications in architecture and urban planning, and how as architects or urban planners we can proactively have discussions in the space, implement and start a network state for of architects and urban planners hopefully in future. So it is meant to be a collaborative, and if you have any questions, feel free to post on the chat on YouTube, Twitter, or any platform you're listening. And yeah, let's do this. So first, will discuss the main article of network state, and it breaks down pretty clearly the five main ingredients which consist of network state. It has a leader, it has an integrated cryptocurrency, a purpose for the network state, for the community, and a sense of national consciousness. And there are various protocols which has that participatory or governance mechanism with it, and plan to crowdfund territory. So let's go a bit deeper. And Guru, at any point, if you want to add anything, stop me and we can go together. So the first section of the article covers how how is this uh, different than a physical state. Like the network state is online community driven, and what makes it different than other Quora communities are rest of the four ingredients, but also like having a crowdfund territory in the end. And one thing which you might find interesting is although we think about DAO influenced network state something, there's always like a set of people who are like founding influencer who starts the community, who are like main the core uh, foundation for it. But then there are like different citizen roles you can adopt in this network state. And this are like interconnected enclaves. So for example, in the map they show, and in coming building upon the article, they also talk about example of Indonesian, Malaysia, how like there's a set of people within a smaller community, within a larger community, who has a purpose, who has a vision to turn that online community into a network state. But like also the fact is land is not necessary. Like it's uh contiguous, like it's the internet new nation state of the internet. We all are connected through our internet, and this meeting itself is like a network state meeting, I would say. And here they're giving example of uh for uh for example, in Indonesia and Malaysia, there might be people who are not who might be more physically closer to other citizens in the same country, but since they are bound by the nation state, they have to follow the rules and regulations of that country. Yeah, even if one of these people may be physically closer to a citizen of another than their co-national. So this is like just an example. Mathematically, they show of non-convex set where that is possible.
Yeah. So some of the
islands, right, where which are closer to one country and are, I mean, some of the islands are closer to, say, Indonesia than Malaysia, but they have to belong to Indonesia because they're just um, they're just bound by jurisdiction and the nation state. But in real, like I've seen many examples of where people talk um, a different language. I think, for example, you can say, I don't know, a local example would be um, an island near India, right? They can talk in Tamil, but they can belong to Sri Lanka. So, um, like, people are more bound by the nation state's rules uh, than the network itself. So, it's kind of weird how we actually function nowadays. I mean, in the in the nation state model. Um, yeah,
And that's a good point. Like sometimes even that local communities, let's say many times on the border of those nation state, they might be well integrated into the vision and culture of the opposite nation state, but because they are have like just because of physical boundary, they can't have the same benefits, or they can't have the same perks as their adjacent nation state.
yeah,
So I think that makes a lot of sense why like uh ultimately like if we go to like the older models where like there's a community driven local subgroups, like I don't know how to best name it, but in a big region if there are like small communities, like you can choose which community you want to be a part of, and that that flexibility or like option of choosing which uh, nation state is lesser these days, but like option of choosing which online community I want to be part of is more freedom, is more accessible.
yeah. So that's exactly right. So now, if you want to, let's say you have a group of people who don't belong to either the state they physically belong to, the nation they physically belong to, but they want their own rights, they want their own representatives, they want their own jurisdictions, they want their own laws. They can't really break off without a struggle, right? They really have to um, work really hard to convince the government, get people together in physically get people together, um, and then fight for their rights and things like that. But when if what makes the nation state easy is because is you can have a lot more people together and you can bind them uh, with crypto and build laws accordingly, and then it makes it easier for you to purchase land later by crowdsourcing the funds through the community and build your own community and state.
Yeah, and one interesting point is like because this nation state have their own laws and rules and regulation, like the same job if I do it in California versus if I do it in other country, or like it will be a different pay rate even if I do the same task. So that makes like this one thing which I found very interesting about DAO phenomena is many times it's task driven rewards. No matter where you belong, which country, it's you do the task, you get the same reward even if you are in state or in you are in India. So that is like kind of a globalization, but like it reduces the biasness or any like imposition based on location or any other cultural implication. So lastly they mentioned like indirectly all the corporations which are working like offices of Google or co-working, they are like globally distributed nations, kind of a network state, because if you have like Google login of, let's say, Google employee login, you could access all the resources which are on the Google network globally. So that is like becoming your access token to this network state of Google. But uh, these guys don't have their own cryptocurrency or other, like we saw like the criteria. But anything you want to add on this point?
Mm, yeah, I mean, yeah, basically, right now they do function like network state. Like you said, um, they have offices all across the world. They have real estate um, everywhere, where I mean, in the form of offices and uh, some cases even hotels, where you have a network of hotels where people can, if they have membership in one place, they can access the hotels all across the world. Even the same with gyms, the same with McDonald's or anything like that. It's already, yeah, basically a network state in itself, but uh, yeah, like Mayur said, it's not bound by a cryptocurrency. It's not actually bound by a leader also, but neither do they have like a common purpose. I mean, it's a company. Company has a purpose, but the community, um, they're not there because of the company's purpose. They're there for their needs. So yeah, it's slightly different, but yeah, it represents uh, kind of the idea of what they're talking about.
Yeah, and I was just thinking like maybe like this corporations, like global corporation, have some aspect of it, but like uh, an employee, a Google employee in US might be treated differently, have different perks than a Google employee in India. And I, I was just comparing with the gaming communities, because gaming is generally global and anyone can have character assets built on tokens. I'm just comparing with like some Fortnite, where they have like global platform, but then like to earlier points, like they and this platform have their own tokens, a kind of a own currency of that network, but they don't have like physical things to realize. And the interoperability, which I think we will discuss further in the article, is missing. Like if I have Fortnite, let's say tokens, I can't use it in other game or other network. So I'm limited by the assets I have in that network. So later in the article, they discuss like the two roles, like founder and citizen, and like four types of transition you have, like founder to founder, founder to citizen, citizen to founder, and citizen to citizen. So if like right now I can't easily like transfer from like a Google network state to Facebook network state, like there are like some processes, but I can easily uh, go from one Discord community to another Discord community, or take up different roles within a Discord community. I think that option, like, and if that Discord community is a DAO, like there are like various financial and DAO, if they have their own tokens. There are like few examples like CityDAO, where they formed that network and they bought a land in Wyoming, and they are physically realizing that CityDAO, and you could buy a passport of that land where it gives you access. So there are a few DAOs who are already working in that direction, where community or cloud first online community, and then physical second, and implement those. And this 9 points give like a really good overview about what we'll be covering in the whole article, that uh, anyone can start a nation network state, which is like big point. Like I can't start a new country, but I can start a new network state. A territory can one can acquire but not conquer. Third is community aligned with cryptographic consensus, a DAO that materializes in the patches of Earth. A city state in the cloud, a body based on math rather than science. A group organized by geodesic over geographic distance. A polity that prizes exit above voice. A state that recruits like a startup, and a nation built from the internet rather than disrupted by it. So let's go deeper into each of those points. So in this section, they talk about like it's optional for a person to be a founder or to be an employee, but each of the role comes with some like commitments and responsibility. So if you are the type of person who temporarily wants to take a break, wants doesn't want stress, you might choose to be a citizen and not the founder role. But after some time, you have the enthusiasm of like becoming a founder. You could start your own network state also. So they're basically saying like these are the two roles, and people are already doing it. Like people like creator economy, people are starting their own startup, starting their own online community in Web 2.0. Like there are various blogging platforms. So here, this is also an interesting article where they are starting a city in Honduras, like kind of a charter city and startup nation. So this is a good what if. What if we can generalize beyond companies, communities, or currency? And I was mentioning earlier, anyone can switch from founders of network state to citizens. And kind of you could now see examples. This is already happening. Let's say if citizen to founder, where you start a company or and then you want to sell it out and become an employee of another company, like that's kind of citizen to founder type of transition. And here they are stating like it has become so much easy to start a new currency. Like on you can create your own ERC20 tokens, which will be the cryptocurrency of your network state. So anyone from the computer can build a following, can start a Discord, can create their own tokens, and that's the first starting point. Se- Second is uh, founder to citizen. Actually, the example I gave was founder to citizen. This is citizen to founder is someone creating their own network state. And yeah, if you sell from one network state to another, that's the founder to citizen transition. And it's interesting where like so when you sell it, your citizens will also be transferred to the new network. And there are various way you could do. If let's say Instagram is integrated into Facebook, all the logins of Instagram is compatible with Facebook now. Or people of Instagram gives a notice, they can also people can also choose that we don't like this network state, we will go to another uh, platform. So it's up to the citizens to make that choice.
Hey,
They can find a
I
new
just have a
network.
question.
Mhm.
So here, like the focus is mainly on the founder, right? So they say if the founder wants to become a citizen, he kind of sells the community to someone else, or he becomes a citizen by making someone else a leader, or does he sell the whole community or the company to a different person and then become a citizen? Because those are like two different options he has, right? So I'm just thinking how much role does the citizens have? Do the citizens have in the community? If they, let's say, the founder wants to become a citizen, so he decides to either sell the company or the network state to some other network state, or he decides to quit and he decides to be a join another network state as an employee. Do the citizens really have an option? Can they remain in the same network state if they would like to? I think that part
Yeah.
is not clearly mentioned in this article.
Yeah. And you raised a very interesting point, because like if I want a founder to citizen role, I can also step down as from CEO to like a general advisor, or just like a normal like research advisor in that network state, and have other take on that founder role. So in that, like, the network transition is not happening. But I'm still thinking, like, is founder here is meaning like one single person, or it could be like set of group of people, like in traditional terms, CEO, CFO, CTO, like, because those are the core group members, like defining the whole network and like uh, influence it. So
Yeah,
even
I
that.
would think it would be a group of people also, instead of just one person, because it's not it's not really that easy. I mean, even though it's initiated from one person, there's usually a bunch of people involved who build this together.
Correct.
So yeah,
So at a time, a person has to be in one network city, or it can be in various.
So
He or
it
she can be in various actually.
yeah, I agree. And you can
Okay.
have different roles. You can be a founder in one network state and citizen in multiple network state. So for example, if you're founder of one Discord community, you're also member of other Discord community, right? So you're citizen of those online communities.
yeah,
Cool. Yeah, I think currently, like, I'm like right now, like, it's wild world, and many Discord communities are like free access, but there are also like some perks within a Discord community, like NFT gated access, or NFT gated like access to channel, or gated access to the whole Discord itself. So I'm just thinking on this lines, like, are there like different levels of citizen perks in a network state?
Also, one thing that's coming in my mind is like if we see any city or a country, they have something called like what do you say, like one will be the person who needs something, and one will be the person who will give that. So that sort of economy is there. So in networks cities, when we talk about, it's something like that, or it's like like-minded people coming together and giving one kind of service to the other city. Or it will be like within the city there will be like lot of roles, and each roles have to be efficient enough so that they can survive from within themselves.
Hmm. That's interesting. Like, are the clients part of the network state? Or, for example, if there is a client, and let's just take ArchiDAO example, who is part of ArchiDAO, then they are like part of the network state. But if the client is part of another DAO, they're part of another network state, and they just want to trade with our network state for some of the services, as how like nations trade for some export import services.
Yeah.
yeah.
So what will be the ideal
Yeah.
model that these these write-ups say about these articles? Like, should it be like, like in-house economy, or it should be like more of exporting and importing sort of economy?
No,
I think it is yet to be determined because very less innovation has happened in this space.
yeah,
There's actually, it's not clear. I think it can be in different ways. It depends on the purpose of the nation state, or sorry, the network state. Every network state can have different roles within itself. So it depends if you want like a network state built on sustainability, in the sense of um, you would have to um, figure out all the services, um, or you would have to figure out the needs of your community through your own citizens. Then, like, that's the kind of network state you would have. But if you're built around, say something like technology network state, then you may not have all the services that you need to survive on your own. So then you'll maybe lean on someone else to fill those roles for you. So I think it really depends on what the purpose of the network state is.
yeah. And I'm just wondering, like, how is the hierarchy? Like, if you're comparing with, like, okay, there's a nation state, then there is like state, there's a city, there's a district. Like, are we part of, like, if a network state is built on Ethereum, like, is Ethereum the parent company, and like all the small like DAOs which are developed on top of Ethereum, are there, or like, are they like the network or like substate of Ethereum, or it's like a totally independent network state which, like, if they're on multiple chain, like, how is that different than like one chain specific network state?
Yeah, that's interesting to think about. So, yeah, I would think Ethereum would be like infrastructure in a way, that your state runs on. Yeah, I can't think of parallels when it comes to real world. Um, but yeah, it's an interesting question to think about. But yeah, I guess you can have an independent state which doesn't depend on, say, Ethereum. You can have your own crypto, and you can have your own value deriving from your network state, from whatever work you do. So I think, yeah, it can work in different ways, I guess. Uh,
Yeah, I'm just thinking, like, for nation state, so there is infrastructure of land, transportation, water, and basic entities. Maybe for this online communities of cloud first, the infrastructure is like the internet, the blockchain technology lying in behind it. Like, I'm just comparing like infrastructure and then like companies or state developing on that. Like, so are we basically a business within a network state, or are we the whole network state itself?
yeah, that's yeah. We don't have answers for all that. I guess again, let's say, for example, a network state decides to buy a piece of land somewhere in the world, right? That piece of land still belongs to a nation right now, and uh, if a network states decides to buy that piece of land and um, build places there, would they still be subject to local jurisdictions, the national laws, or would they function like an independent country? How does that work? Yeah, it's still not clear.
That's quite interesting. Like, if you get a land in a particular nation state by a network state, if things
Yeah.
go wrong, like who's liable? Like are they following the rules of the state which the land was, even if the whole community is like distributed?
So you might guys have answered this, but I have a question, like how is DAO community different from network cities here? So the word cities, why are we aligning the word cities, not community?
So like I think DAO, depending on, like there are few DAOs which might fall into network state, there might be few which aren't. Like it's if they have like this 5 ingredients in the DAO, like that is a nation state. Like city DAO is city DAO is a network state, not a nation state. Sorry. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, DAOs right now, I don't think any DAO has plans to crowdfund the territory. I mean, the city DAO, that's the purpose of the city DAO. So hence they're
That
uh, having a crowdfunded territory. But other DAOs usually don't. I mean, they don't plan to do that as of now. But they could easily turn into a network state if they decide to have a land and choose to build something over it.
Kabir, you had a point.
no, actually,
Okay. Yeah. I think, Richa, what becomes interesting, and like for example online community, like if I have a blog or a YouTube channel, like I am restrained by the laws of YouTube or like the WordPress website. The in nation state, like I think like you govern the laws, you define the rules, laws and regulation of the state. If I have the land, like I'm the one, like what should be the urban zoning, what, like there's no other entity controlling my network state when what I want to do with it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Any other point you
I
guys
have
would like?
some questions coming up, but maybe I'll ask you later. Yeah.
Yeah. Shri, Barbara, like feel free to share your thoughts.
Yeah, I was thinking that usually we go through the most restrictive law, right? Well, like when we talk about cities and states and countries, which one do we follow? The one that's more restrictive, but it's so different to understand which one is on the top of the other one, right? Just that.
Yeah, like what is the like determining factor? And honestly, now the more I think, it feels like a wild west. Like imagine in 1600 you are discovering a new land, then you are basically, okay, let's form a state, let's define what are the laws for this, and like California wild west or like US discovery wild west. So it's this is a different kind of wild west, but yeah. But
Yeah, I think
then
Barbara,
go
what
ahead.
you were asking about, I think Kabir is gonna fill in on that a bit later. So Balaji talks about how you can go from uh, uh, a community to a college, and then college to a city to a state, and state to nation, basically. So there are steps. Each step, like you build on the previous step, and then you become bigger, 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 and then you turn into a nation. I, if I understood your question right, is that what you were talking about? Where do we start? How do you represent? I mean, how do you um, what do you call the nation network state? Is it like a city? Is it like a country? Is that was your question, right?
Oh, yeah. And oh,
Mm.
you're muted in case.
Yeah, but that's exactly what I've been thinking. Also, always this intersection between the real world and the other laws we already have to follow and how it gets in the middle of whatever is decided inside any kind of online network, even if it's a network state or if it's a DAO or any other kind of organization online. It's hard to understand the limits, right?
Yeah, I was thinking on the analogy of like building code when you were talking like, so there is like a national building code, but also there is like city building code, and like, so for a plumbing design or like a fire egress design, like you might consider what's the worst like clause in all the codes which are relevant to it. So I was thinking on those lines, like if we are just buying a physical land and we are defining the raw laws, like if there is not proper zoning, like things could go wrong and people's lives safety might be affected. Or uh, we also see some aspect of it in various metaverse. Like we could see like instead of physical land, like metaverse are procuring their own digital land, and there are a few metaverses where like there's no urban planning principles, so people are building like 3D assets and there's no like hierarchy, no urban planning strategy there, where like people are just like there's a square plot of land and like sub squares of parcels which people are selling. So because like there are like no life safety involved, but things are going not so great in all these metaverses because there's like no proper like zoning or like proper like thinking behind it.
But also, like when we think about a digital city, I think that one of the values for the future of this metaverse of these cities is that it's actually not physical. So the zoning or the way that it's supposed to be composed, it's supposed to be way different to the real cities. I think that's a good aspect of that. Like, I mean, if someone has like really good skills to model, probably he can model with some code like half of a city in a couple of days, and it's not going to grow exactly as human cities are have been growing. Like for housing, the needs. I think the needs that we'll see in the metaverse or in cities, in digital cities, will be completely different to the needs that we see in the real ones. So that's, I don't know,
Yep.
I'm just tripping there, but it's really interesting.
Yeah, like I think that's like totally valid point. And like what I meant was like not literal transition of zoning, but some like rule, because like if I buy a land, I can build like the tallest building in the metaverse, and maybe it's blocking the view of my neighbor, and they bought the parcel thinking they will get the view. And if there is such clash, is the metaverse platform gonna resolve those clash? Like who is like the jury for this? Or like what's the if there is a smart contract, maybe like if there's a defined protocol that if things go wrong, like if this then do that, like such straightforward protocols, then both entities could agree.
Yeah, I think the project it's interesting, but like for example, this example of the view. What if inside the metaverse, like even if you have like, or inside this digital city, even if you have like a window in every apartment and you have a building in front, like what if the technology actually allows you to keep looking at the view that you want to see? This is like a bit of fiction, so those things is like will do real like space is not going to behave the same that behaves in the real world, I guess. So that's one of the advantages, I guess, of having digital, that you can actually have like maybe layers and layers of buildings, and then have all of them have the view to the sea, for example, like as a plus to the space. Because if we're gonna build, or like if we're gonna see the same that we are looking at the reality because it's what we are used to, I think we are losing the advantage of having digital.
Yeah, and there could be new protocols or like new building designs where everyone gets the same view importance, and there's no hierarchy where it's not possible physically. So those
That's
are
a
the
good point
things.
by Samuel. Yeah. I think if we're in the metaverse, right? Like you don't even, I mean, for a view of from inside a building. You can even design like a fake view, right? Artificial view from inside. So I don't know. View is just like a small thing, but yeah, definitely there are rules which need to be followed, and if those can be coded into the metaverse, yeah, that would be great.
Yeah. You know what I foresee? Like the air rights or advertisement model would be quite challenging here, because let's say I'm in the center of the metaverse town and everyone here is now competing to get the visual attention of me. So, oh, there's a big store over there, or there's a small store over there. So how much screen space or how much virtual real estate on top of your building you could use to capture? And if every building is having their own media and advertisement, like it's gonna become a bit chaotic too. Like you're like, oh, this is like claustrophobic, where every building and real estate folks are popping up ads on your face when you're walking in that metaverse. Cool. Let's move on. So here the mention, I think we were we covered citizen. This was an interesting point where, as in nation state, in network state, you could also have like dual citizen or nth citizen, and this also maybe ties back to what Richa was mentioning earlier. Can you just be a part of only one network? Here they're saying like you could like be part of multiple network, and also each network could have their own minimum requirements of participation or civility, or like minimum like this. If we are thinking like if NFT is the minimum requirement to be a part of that network state, that is some of the criterias. And things get very like this is quite interesting example that based on the network state, I think there might be like as we have like developing or developed nation state, there could be like some network state which are very strong compared to smaller network state, and they might follow like different reciprocity provision, where this says it clearly like Quora allows Facebook and Google login, but Google doesn't allow Quora login. Like there might be like Ethereum, like ArchiDAO network state might allow Ethereum login, but Ethereum won't have a provision of ArchiDAO login or something on those lines. And lastly, it's founder to founder, where they are mentioning like you could move from one to another. Like uh, you could start like Twitter network state, and then you can also start Medium network state, so the founder can hop from one journey to another. Here like they give example of even who has like some iterations of different companies on similar theme. You can have like versions of countries rather than companies. And I love this statement, like this is truly like global equality of opportunity, where right now like I keep on referring to the job scene, like different pay rates of a tech job, whether you are in developed country versus developing country. Like here there is like you create that job, and also like you create the equal opportunity and everyone is being paid the same, where we see on DAO like there is no such biasness. So and they give an interesting example of like if you want to run for a president, like you got to be in like 4% of the people could compete for that role, and it it would be way more easy to start a new cryptocurrency than to become the head of Federal Reserve. And so their example of like Buterin founded an economy while Powell, Fed chair of states, inherited it, and comparison of tech billionaires versus US president. So ultimately we are moving towards where anyone with an internet connection can start a tech company, can start a new or define or develop a new protocol, but also they can start a new network state. And this is like opens up a whole new like approach in future of how business or communities will govern and define. And they're mentioning about positive sum, and it's up to, so it allows anyone who doesn't desire the strap, like, yeah, it's up to the city, like people to choose the role of a citizen or a founder. Anything you want to add, uh, guys, on before we move on to the next topic? All right. So this talks about like it's easy to acquire than to conquer. So they give example how uh, they acquire like the purchase of another land in nation state. And so for example, I think the main point is you could also like spin off one network to another network, like the UK did with exiting EU. So for example, there could be possibility where CityDAO, there's a sub network of CityDAO people who are creating their own separate network, or they want to separate it from the CityDAO network state based on their interests. So that is possible. And if you visualize one network state consummates the acquisition of another, all citizens from one network state can enter the territory of another. Yeah, this this was very interesting. So for example, there are, let's say there is CityDAO, and there is, which has land in Wyoming, and there is ArchiDAO, which has land in some island. If 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 both entity merges or one network state become part of another, like they could upgrade their smart contract to give access to citizens of CityDAO network state to physical or other access of ArchiDAO network state. So it would be a software upgrade, and now like both the citizens of like citizens of both network state can access the entities. And yeah, they might need to negotiate the reciprocity relationship, but that's how like a lot of corporate deals where they acquire works. People's residency. Yeah, the way this is different this time, like uh is when multinational acquires, like there are like company to company acquisition which does with their offices, but now we are uh, extending it to people's residences, and acquired people are not just employees, but they're citizens of both the network state. Digital infrastructure should live on blockchain. And this is interesting where like if we have like a decentralized entity recording all these things, then like it becomes interesting where, let's say if you have a physical land and people are doing real estate transaction, or like you can also main record of the citizens, and there are like acquisitions between network state, all that data can be integrated in much way easier possibility than like if currently if they're like, let's say Google has their own database and Facebook has their own database, there might be database compatibility issues or like repetition of records. But if both are on the same network state, like my address on Ethereum for CityDAO network state or ArchiDAO network state will have consistency. To conquer. This is also interesting where like as we saw, like in our history, like when there was nation state, there were like always like fight to conquer more land, and there is like colonization and those type of violence issues. Here we are totally uh, eliminating that possibility, because there is like geographical decentralization and there is like no physical visibility. So it totally deters violence of this network state. And they give example like you can't visualize the border between Twitter and Facebook. So
I found this point really interesting because all the wars that have been waged throughout the years has been for physical land, and it's just very interesting that because if it's a network state, there is no land, there is no physical um, physical boundary between two states. So it's just all blurry. It's just you're basically competing with um, the purpose and the mission of your network state rather than like the physical resource of the land. Yeah, I thought that's really interesting. And it's battles are going to be fought over the internet. Like how can you convince more people, or if you want to have more people in the network, or if you're happy, then yeah, you're just happy with what you have. But if you want more people in your network, then you're just gonna have to compete in a different way, like with the services you provide or your mission or your purpose. Yeah, that's really interesting.
that's that's kind, and like I was thinking like, so for example, like citizen of a network state right now, nation state, like they pay taxes for the infrastructure, and citizen of the network state, like they might be paying taxes in the form of transactions or like contribution to the DAO in the like in the network state. But the incentive here, like in nation state, like more land maybe implies more resources or like more possible better uh, GDP or something. Here, like the incentive could be more citizens, implies more usage of the network, implies more network economy, I'm assuming. So how would like they fight over getting more citizens, which are now the infrastructure assets? Maybe like
Hmm.
that could be like network state where like one network is providing more incentive like for one task. A city down network state could pay at a different rate than ArchiDAO network state, so the citizen will could hop up from one to another, similar to how we see on startups, where if there are like multiple car startups, like some will provide a different incentive mechanism to attract more users.
Yeah, there are parallels to how social networks work right now. They have slightly different ways of functioning. Like Twitter works differently than Facebook and Reddit. So they have different ways to do that, different incentives um, and yeah, reward systems. Um, so yeah, I guess it's to compete for that. I mean, people can like we discussed earlier, people can be on different networks, but to increase the network economy, I guess, yeah, it's all about incentives and uh, what the network can do to your own growth, as well as how they can contribute to maybe like the wider society in general. Yeah, I think those are some of the aspects um, which can bring people into the network.
Yeah, I'm I'm just thinking like Twitter, if you have like on like some hate speech, or if there's a politician who says something, Twitter has the power to like restrict some of the like platform perks to them, or like eliminate them or ban them. What would be such thing in network state? Like can they kick out citizens, or if citizens fight among each other, or there is like a in a discord where there's a maybe some conflict among citizens, like how would that work? There's a different violence, like online violence or like cyber crime.
Yeah, I guess the rules are defined in advance when people are coming into the network. So if anyone's not following the rules, I think it's at the discretion of the leader or the law of the network, which will determine whether what action to be taken to um, the person who is breaking law, right? So I think it would work similar to how a nation state would work, and also how like people are treated in on social media. Yeah, there's still so much like um, clarification and things to be panned out that it's at this point, yeah, it's unclear, but yeah, we can see some parallels. Uh,
I keep thinking about cultural things like respect and religion. These are so hard to understand how it could be organized in a globalized community online.
Mhm. Yeah, I think there is some inspiration from like how in historically how things evolve, which might give us some insight of like what could be the pressing issues as this things goes mainstream. Cool. All right, moving on. Like this, like determines like I think this talks about the earlier point of things driven by math rather than science. So here they say currently like they're comparing geodesic distance versus geographic, where if I have similar vision or values, it is possible that my social media network, like this network based graph theory, like I would align more with them rather than my geography based like physical uh, network or boundary. So I think the main points they are saying is, yeah, this is the network of like online social media networks, and this becomes quite interesting where like I could select my online network. I could switch like to community in one country versus another because I don't have that physical boundary. But like that is one of the flexibility I have, that in nation based, like the geography is primary and ideology is secondary, whereas in like network state like Ethereum, like it's an ideological entity whose primary existence is in a network. And although they organize physical meetups, the digital community is like global and persistent. So yeah, nation large group is by shared graph or graph. Network state is large group of people organized by a shared belief. Belief is primary, geography is secondary, whereas nation state geography is primary, belief is secondary. And this is also interesting point where like mostly nation state the borders are fixed, or yeah, in like network state the borders are highly fluid. And this shows the graph like how the network is evolving or growing. And this is another interesting point where there's a rise of new network state, or like for example, Solana is popping up. It's also taking some chunk of citizens from Ethereum network state in their network state, and as like they're comparing how Ethereum rose from Bitcoin network state. So, and they're giving analogy how Facebook got out of nowhere and took many citizens from Gmail before they closed the borders. And yeah, so in network state, we'll have that fluidity. Yeah, individuals can also move around the map to become adjacent to others in the physical world. So this is like it hits differently. Like I choose, even in a network, if there are like clusters of areas of shared belief, I choose to teleport you to the shared belief I want to work it on now. Like I'm not limited by any physical constraints or border. And yeah, this is the last concept is dynamic digital geography. And they talk about like popularization of metaverse makes this more than a metaphor. Digital territory of a network inhabitants can instantly picked up and made more adjacent to another with the press of a key. So if I don't have any network, let's say in Japan, and socially I connected and like I instantly like within a press of few buttons, like I made my network, or like I don't know like what's the right word. I'm thinking more in LinkedIn analogy here, where you have like first connection, second connection, and third connections. But that is like global network, not like limited by any first physical boundary. So if I am adding a new connection, like I'm adding like some new node in my network state. Anything else, guys? Concluding statement before we move on to Kabir's presentation.
I have a thought like earlier people used to live in villages or Himalayas and like that. Then they moved to the cities, like where like Delhi or like main tier one cities, and they left their places and they'll be like going back for a holiday or a festival. So it will be like if this thing goes or like expand, so people will work in network cities and come back to the land cities when they want to have some joy or festivals or holidays. This is weird.
Yeah, like, and since we are doing all the work remotely these days, like I can be in my room and like work in multiple network states or cities. And like you were saying about going to physical origin for like during vacation, like if this network state have their own land, like I could hop into different lands of this network state and like enjoy those perks or go to whatever place I like. Right, so this were the points we covered, and these are the 5 key ingredients. Shri, Barbara, Samuel, would you like to add any concluding statements?
Well, I still believe it's a thing that is starting to happen nowadays. That people is, well, we are a group like we are discussing this type of new ways of civilization, of interaction as well between people and communities. So definitely we're gonna see many things happening there. Definitely it's worth it to see how can we use it. And one of the things that I do believe about this whole process is that it will have to be linked completely to a new creative side of how we perceive the relationship. I do believe that it's digital cities on everything digital is allowing us to see things completely different and do things differently than the way we do it in the real world. So yeah, definitely it's something that I would love to explore more, and great to talk about this.
Yeah, and I'm just thinking like things are getting different, like people saying I'm physical importance is getting lower and lower and digital importance is getting higher and higher. So like we are at a terms where like maybe physical architecture is also competing with like digital UI UX or IoT smart devices. We might be in a room, but if we are 70% of the time in front of laptop, like maybe that UI UX experience is impacting more of my life than IRL experiences. So if digital is going to dominate on that level, this network state is getting more importance compared to the physical land state or something, or nation state.
Yeah, and it's true. Like I think like it will be like a balance. Like I mean, at the end of the day, real world it's the one that will domain for sure. But it's just about how good the experience becomes in the digital, right? Like I wouldn't, for example, like in a personal experience that I had back in the days. I used to when I was like I don't know, like 18, something like that. I used to have like an Xbox and play a lot of video games, and I used to love it. But at some moment, I was like, okay, for me this is too consuming, so I want to experience more of the real life. So it's not something that I don't like. I actually enjoy it, and I think like my work is related to computers and to like digital stuff. It's something that I really enjoy. But the experience has to be like really good for me to keep going on it. You know. So I think that's where that's where I think like okay, it's going to be great if we can build new cities, but what are we bringing to these new cities that people will be hooked to them, right? What's the experience that we can provide to them? Otherwise, it's I mean, if someone sells me a city just like the city that I live at, like I don't see the value of it to go inside, you know. So that's kind of like my thinking for it. But it's still like many things, just like you're saying, like we were talking violence, how we're gonna enter to these cities, how's the citizen, like that's actually a really interesting topic that I have no clue on how it will work, but yeah, it's definitely something that will be worth it to explore more.
Yeah, and that's why like metaverse, like everyone is now competing to be like the biggest metaverse. And to your point, like why would you go there? Like we need to have like strong reasons to that. Cool. Guru, any last point before we give the stage to Kabir?
It's just really interesting because like look, if we look at it right now, it seems very vague and very out there. We don't really understand how a network state is going to work. But like if one person or if one network state actually works out and like actually becomes a reality and people actually buy land and build spaces build houses there or offices there and work, I mean transfer from so it's going to be like first you're going to be digital and then you're going to be physical. So once that transition happens from digital to physical, I think that's when people will really take notice and start believing that, okay, this is actually doable, actually possible. And that's when I think more network states will pop up and like people will like really adopt it. And yeah, like the first version is the first one to try it, first one to come to fruition will be a hard one, but like once that happens, I think there will be better ones built, like version 2, version 3, and I think it'll get bigger and bigger as each iteration goes.
Yeah. I was thinking an analogy which Sergey Bhushan mentioned yesterday. Like, for example, like in metaverse, there is like professionally generated content, but also we are moving towards like user generated content. And we see it in YouTube economy where it started with professional. Now every YouTube creator economy is there. So in physical sense, like we see sometimes in co-ops or societies having their own rules and governments, and like they develop within the entity. So we have user control on like housing scale or at max society scale. But what if like the whole entity wants to develop like a small city or like small neighborhood, but also wants to have their own laws of electricity or like other infrastructure which they can't control these days? And that networks, it's not like kind of a network of community members enable like governance, which could be interesting.
Yeah, when you said that, I just thought about how people who are living in like a certain region, right? If they can get together and like people who are physically close to each other, if they can collaborate and like plan the city in a better way and get funds together to improve like the general infrastructure instead of moving to a different place altogether, like can people in the same city or like a area within the city get together and like do better things for the city in which they're currently living in? It's just interesting if we can use the digital tools to do that, because right now coordination is a big problem, right? And also raising funds to do these projects is also a problem. So can we use the Web3 technologies, the concepts of network states to actually do have uh, bring about change in your own locality? Yeah, that's just an interesting thing. I just yeah.
Yeah.
Also, to exist these network cities, there should be something like, eradicating a poverty maybe. So these things, that aspect has to be there, else it will be another loophole then.
Yeah, like the shared belief or definite purpose is definitely like the core uh ingredient to like making some improve something or making impactful things. I'm just wondering, there are like a lot of Amazon in Amazon, like there are a lot of like local communities which do like community driven. I think network state, what I see is like as in software, like how we could do scalable things by just like independent of any entity. Like network state enables like scalable communities where, let's say, if I leave my village and go to other person, like I can still be in the network of those physical realm and like contribute and get other people or alumni community I could foresee could be a strong network state.
Yeah. Then that's the difference. Like we, like right now, I can't distinguish like my personally, like it will be like, is it the same thing called community, except that some ideas of governance and crowdfund and all of that. But yeah.
Yeah, like when do you define the transition from community to citizen? I think that's
Yeah.
another discussion topic.
Yeah.
Cool. I know we already have like good amount of time passed. So Kabir, without much ado, go ahead.
Okay, so I have prepared a PPT that is, it's good that I have kept it short.
Awesome. Dang, looks professional.
Wait a
Yeah,
minute.
I can see your screen.
Yes, now it might be full screen. Is it?
Yep.
Okay, so this is actually a summary of an article written by Clavin Clemmer during Tech Progressive Challenge. I suggest everyone to have a go on Tech Progressive Challenge as they have written many essays on network state and startup cities. So in this article, he addresses that why should a person join a network state and what should be a particular. Let us go ahead. So the main reason anyone should join a network state is that he gets with people with like-minded people. One should join a network state because you get with like-minded people. If the purpose of network state resonates with you and you see potential in the network state fulfilling its purpose, you should take the opportunity and join, as you will profit from future network effects. So it's like what Y Combinator does. Anyone know about it?
Yep.
So it brings people together. And Paul Graham stated in 2008 that great cities, aka network states, attract ambitious people. So he writes that network states will be clustered around different purposes, like many smaller network states, which will have only one specific purpose. And in order to gain one small, there will be smaller network states and there will be some larger network states, which will have sub network states. It is much like DAOs. Okay, and here the overreaching network state governs the location and follows a general purpose, something like prosperity. So the network states will have a general purpose around which everything will be revolved. It here the network state acts similar to a VC fund, which helps many companies to completely, which help companies. So here the writer addresses that which network state should anyone join. So he proposes an idea that network state should have a public dashboard, and most of the metrics should be bottom up, meaning every citizen should have a variable which tracks the data. Okay, this would allow every citizen to have his own personal dashboard. Further, every location could have their data pulled together to see their own metrics. Finally, the metrics would merge into network state dashboard. And he also proposes that it should be gamified to reach the common purpose of network state. There could be leaderboards between citizens and between network states. Such a public leaderboard between network states will help easily to anyone take decision about which one is right for him. So lastly, I am mentioning about an important project in this space, which is called Build Cities. It is actually a co-working DAO that connects startup cities around the world. Its main purpose is to create high engagement online communities that will translate into high engagement offline communities. So its main purpose is to increase the engagement in online communities, because that is where many people lack, because they fail to create engagement in a particular DAO. So its initiative is to address this problem. I think
That's amazing presentation, Kabir.
I should stop here. Can I stop?
Like it's up to you. Like you have time. Like no.
No, this was the last page.
Okay. I see like
This
a
is the
website
website.
of build.
It's
Yeah.
is the website of build coming? I think so. Is it sharing?
Yeah.
So this is the build.
Community first, real estate second. What do you think like would be the most challenging part in developing such community or network state?
The main thing is actually the purpose should resonate with much large amount of people. It shouldn't be like only 5 to 10 people are there, and it should be able to achieve engagement, which is very difficult.
I think the idea of a public dashboard is very strong. Like if the whole network state agrees on that, and I saw one article about like the crime rate being displayed on like a good data visualization and like a dashboard where city crime was tracked with time data, and that really brought awareness about like what are the things which are working, not working, and like people looked at things differently. So I'm bringing back the discussion like how can we translate these learnings into, let's say, an in general like architecture network state, if we want to develop, well, like what do you guys think would be the critical criteria? And I want to know like everyone's thought on this. So uh,
Well, it is quite a big thing, I think.
yeah, like narrowing down into one specific belief or purpose would be the first thing. Yeah.
Yeah, I think finding the purpose for the network state is the biggest thing. Um, and yeah, that obviously starts with a founder, and people. I think the founder should have enough followers uh, and the community really backing the founder's vision with what the network state should be. Yeah, once that happens and people slowly join the network and bring value to it and help, like again, engagement is really important. So yeah, these are like the critical what do you say, pipes of the state where, like, depending on what the purpose is, you'll want to attract the right kind of people. And if that's a challenge in itself, if you're not able to do that, then how can you compensate that with someone with a network outside of yours, and how do you work together to enable uh, the existence of your network? Like, these are, yeah, a few challenges, I would say.
Mhm.
And also, like, yeah, the physical manifestation of it, right? Like, where do you find the land and to actually build a actual physical city or a state, and how to go about that. And if it's a big part of it is getting the funds together, even if like people are contributing, they believe in the vision, and you have all the ingredients, but you don't have enough financial power uh, to actually make the physical space happen. Yeah, that's another challenge, I think. Um, yeah, I guess there are different ways different approaches um, you can take to address that, but yeah, it's a big part of it is the consensus, how people can, uh, if they really believe in it, they can, I think, um, come through with it and yeah, make it happen.
Mhm.
And also I think the governance is a big part when like you being in certain like real life cities, and they won't allow you to join any city like that, because these are actually can be something leading to less empathy. Maybe like this is just my thought, because I want to be very critical when I'm talking about these things. And so empathy gonna be, right now people are focusing, okay, there should be empathy, and these things can bring out something, a FOMO, which is not good, maybe in terms of some backward classes. And also like how they will interact with the real life cities. And why are we using the word cities? That's the first um like, because cities have always been about the geography and very very motherland sort of feeling, and that can be distorted, and the coming future we'll be seeing it as something else. Like the city's definition gonna change because of these word like network cities. It can have a different word like that. Why cities using that, that what you say, the passionate word for something like that? Yeah, you should define another term for that.
Yeah, I'm just thinking like maybe like with this network state leading to virtual city and with metaverse rising, like how is the physical city, digital city, or like physical city interacting with network state? Those are interesting mechanisms.
Yeah, and the important thing always gonna be food. That's what our body will need. So you can't come out of your body and be in a city. So how you gonna tackle with these things which are very very needful of? So yeah.
Mhm. Yeah. Barbara, what are your thoughts? How can we build one? Or
Yeah, I was thinking about the purpose thing. For me, it seems that it should, if we understand that the profile of our community is people from the architectural world, which I'm not quite sure because I'm new here, so correct me if I'm wrong, please. But if we understand that this is the place where we want to be, we should, we could maybe start thinking what are the communities that already exist inside this group of people that actually works, because things that already exist today probably comes from necessity, and a stronger necessity. It will happen anyway. We become more linked to the metaverse according to the development of the whole technology and stuff. But if we go back to these needs, what are the necessities of our community, and how could one help each other? And if we find this spot, maybe we can find a purpose. But I don't know which. What are those? If we think only about architecture, when I think about real estate, I can see more things, but maybe it's a little bit too much connected with the real world, and this connection is hard to solve. but inside our own community, I don't know. When I look at GitHub and everything people do in this kind of forums and in these communities, it seems very strong, right? That's what I do.
Yeah, when you were discussing, I was thinking like there might be like sometimes competition designs which are very like cutting edge, but because of some limitation by the city or the jury, they are not realized. And could be there is a community where or network state where they just buy piece of land and they are giving voice to this cutting edge ideas and doing physical prototype. Or I could also foresee like some community housing. So right now, like developer-led community housing, but it could be community-led construction or housing where, oh, we just want to be a sustainable co-op in our area, and those people are coming together. So, yeah, there there are like I think one thing I really want to critically think about is, if let's say online communities of creators who have like million followers on YouTube, like, and they get creator social tokens, or and they have the community, they have the shared vision, they don't have the physical state, like how is that creator economy or social tokens different than network state social tokens? Like there is also a community driven content based on Patreon membership or like various economic models in that direction. So I don't know the answer yet, but yeah.
Yeah, this is a valid thought.
Samuel, what are your thoughts?
I still, again, I still, we just starting to see the beginning of this whole world. I do agree with that, with what Barbara was saying about having a purpose for these social for these networks. Like, what's a common thing that has us, that will bring us to this network, and how we will share it. I think that's definitely really important that we figure out, like, what. Okay, let's just suppose that we are architects in this meeting, right? So maybe buildings is what we want to see, right? Just for saying something. So what are the buildings that we want to see? Like, it's crazy random stuff, organic shapes? Is it just squares? Like, I think another important point is like, how does these networks and what platforms will be like out there that we can use to build, like, like this game Minecraft, that you actually place like box by box, right? So for someone that knows like how to code and do parametric, like, I don't imagine like someone building box by box, So I think this will be the next thing to understand, like, what platforms can we use to create the networks that we can share between us. I think this is to have this purpose, which I really like that.
Yeah. And I'm thinking like, I'm not sure it was mentioned here, but like sustainable business model is also very important for a network state. Like I could have a community who wants to make cool parametric prototypes and I can start printing on it. But after a point, if I'm running out of funds, like how are gonna survive it or like sustain this network state? So do I need other clients who wants to showcase it in the exhibition or museum? Like I think maybe the community, once they start working on it, figures out like how we can sustain it or like push the research in architecture. There might be a lot of ideas in which are presented in conference, but they're not realized. Like, are there opportunities there? But good. Uh, Kabir, you mentioned briefly, but I didn't get a chance to know your thoughts in detail.
Yes, I think content creation is very important. Means like you said, that creators have millions of followers and they create their social tokens, and they provide incentive for the community. And I think that the content creation of metaverse, which is yet to be determined because it's early, will be a major means which will help in creating powerful communities, I think. Because if you see the content creation of virtual reality, it's I think architects can do a lot of things there.
That's interesting, and that's not explored or showcased yet. So it's a big opportunity for us.
I think the earlier the current manifestation like the DAOs are, I think, how um, these network states are going to be initiated, because DAOs currently, they're actually working together as to be a profitable company. They're building a community. They actually have a common purpose of existence, and the thing they lack right now is just buying the land and like making a physical um, space out of that. So yeah, I think how if DAOs become big enough and people decide to move in together at a common place, so that if that helps in like better functioning of the DAO, or uh, whatever reasons, right? Like if they think being living close to that community brings more value to you in real life, I think, yeah, that's the direction I would look at uh, to see where uh, it would all start, you know.
Yeah, I think like DAO definitely has the foundation layer. And one interesting example that came to my mind is like for our DAO, like for Crypto Barista project. So the vision was like NFT funded coffee chain, and like they minted NFT, they got the people interested, they formed the DAO. But now, like, so let's say this is the network state of shared belief, and there's a physical aspect of the coffee chain. They are doing their first cafe in New York. But now for the second cafe, the network is deciding where is the coffee location, like kind of a DAO driven thing. And that's where I think digital, physical, or network digital influencing physical is taking more and more like tangible uh, area where like could be if Crypto Barista has its own like Google like distributed office and mechanism. It's a network state, and the DAO decided how the network grew. Cool. I think uh, is there anything else you guys would like to discuss? And Shri, uh, if you I didn't get a chance to know your thoughts, if you want to add any point, in case you are able to unmute. So yeah, so I think we got good understanding of network state, and maybe on the Discord we could start and like discuss what are the next articles we should discuss in the next study group, and people can have thumbs up, thumbs down emoji on the ones they would like to share. But this was an incredible session. I think these conversations are very important to the future of architecture, I believe, and it's great that uh, you guys have joined this study group, and like I'm forcing more and more knowledge distribution and discourse. So thank you.
And thanks everyone. It was really good to be here and getting an idea of what people is thinking about this. I think it's really important. So honestly, it was so good to talk to you, and hopefully we keep talking more about this.
Yep. Thank you so much. Thank you, Mayur, for making this happen. Yeah, it's really had fun brainstorming with where the future lies and how we can be a part of it. And it's good to hear everyone's thoughts. And yeah, it's great. I would love to continue having such conversations and hopefully make something out of it.
So times are
This
coming,
was
right?
really a great session.
Yeah, I think
No.
like this is a network state. We have a
Yeah,
shared
that's
belief
what I
of
was
like
saying.
Really.
But also I think there, if we go to like, if this is a hypothesis, like network cities are like hypothesis, and just to go back some step, when social media came into place, people starting following someone or the other, no one knew that was for entertainment, but no one knew that people will be having a DAO or network cities. So I would like take a step ahead of network cities and think like, if they come in place, what will be the next? Because humans are going to be ever evolving and their mind is crazy. So like these things, how they will lead, they should not end up, ruining our own self, like our ancestors have already done it. So this is a thought I think I'll go back from here and think.
yeah, maybe at the end of after a few sessions we could have a like dedicated session on a speculative version of it, like let's say 10-15 years down the line when everyone has a network state, how is the city infrastructure, how is the architecture, how would architecture reflect or should adapt according to this new development. I think that could be a valuable output, and we could
Yeah.
share in an article that how can we prepare now for this upcoming future.
Yeah, and what is the future of future network cities?
Yeah, cool.
Cool, guys, have a great day.
All right, let's see you in the next session. Thanks everyone. Bye bye.
Thanks.
Bye.